Atomic Heart is set in an alternative history of the Soviet Union in the 1950s, where we play as an agent called Sergei Nechayev. He's mostly referred by his codename P3. P3's boss is Dmitry Sechenov, a top scientist who discovered a plastic electric storage device known as polymer, which allowed the USSR to boost their economy and to create robots. To control these robots more effectively, Sechenov launched a system, Collective 1.0, to replace human labor and to integrate these machines into the daily life of Soviet citizens. But it wasn't enough. Sechenov continued researching, found a way to inject polymer into human body, created attachable interface devices, and on this special day, he's about to roll out Collective 2.0, which is gonna connect the Soviet population on a neural network to be able to control robots with thoughts. Wow, all this fuss about a Windows update. I wonder how it's gonna work out. So our character, P3, is invited to the Chalomey complex for the launch of Collective 2.0, and he gets a task almost immediately to upgrade his glove, Charles. Charles is a sentient AI and our main companion through the game. Taking control of P3, we head to the boss's office to grab the keys for our transport, where we meet Sechenov's twin bodyguards, left and right. They are tall robotic ballerinas, and P3 likes their presence. Well, the last game made me feel this small, was Shadow of the Colossus, so we hop in the car, but before we could move to the Vavilov Center for the upgrade, we are taken on a tour to see the entirety of this place. This location as a whole is known as Facility 3826, and we are about to explore it right now, because the robots are starting to turn on civilians. Our transport gets destroyed. We pass out, only to regain consciousness on the ground. According to Sechenov, it's Viktor Petrov who caused this madness by hacking the central hub. Petrov is the lead engineer of the Collective project, and he's currently hiding inside the Vavilov complex. Therefore, it's no surprise that we get the task to find and capture him alive, while Sechenov is trying to maintain news blackout. In a couple of minutes, we find ourselves in a sticky situation, and P3 gets helped by a badass old lady, Granny Zina. With her help, we enter the facility. Once inside, we learn that Petrov is working with the neurosurgeon, Dr. Larissa Filatova. Then we find Petrov, already deceased. Hearing this info, Sechenov wants us to report to the exhibition center, called VDNH. At the same time, one member of the Politburo is coming to inspect the facility. This so-called inspector is Molotov. He believes that Sechenov is downplaying the situation, so he threatens to shut down the Atomic Heart project. As we get inside the VDNH, Charles explains that Collective won't make everyone equal, as we think. In fact, there are special neuroconnectors providing more authority, 9 in total. First, one alpha connector for Sechenov himself. This makes one a system admin. 7 gamma connectors for Sechenov's scientists. And most importantly, 2 beta connectors. These are prototypes with discretionary authority. They are ring-shaped and should have been in Petrov's possession. They are a concern, because once Collective is launched, the system won't be able to detect the beta connectors. Those who use them will become invisible observers. To sum it up, the Collective experience for the average citizen will be like using Windows XP with a guest account. We keep fighting through wacky robots, weird creatures, and the down-bed vending machine.
Get rid of that glove, handsome. You don't need him anymore now that you've got me. I'll service you however you want.
Yeah, she's like that all the way till the end. Then we rendezvous with Molotov and his men. But P3 feels that something is off. I don't know why. Everything looks perfectly fine to me. All of a sudden, P3 blacks out and finds himself in a hallucination, in which he turns into a weird creature called Pushistugh. Since the word means fluffy, it's quite fitting. To wake up from this fever dream, we collect apples and head inside the tunnel. Then P3 wakes up, only to find Molotov and his guards mysteriously wiped out. And the story just keeps getting weirder and weirder from this point.
Left, help her.
This is too much.
It's too much for all of us. This terrible incident.
Bro, that's right, not left. And you should fix your own incident first. In the next scene we witness the disintegration of Molotov's body. As this red polymer consumes it, the red polymer works as a data storage, allowing Sechenov to preserve one's consciousness. We learn that Petrov is not dead, In fact, he is trying to communicate with the outside world. Wasting no time, we track him down in the theater, where he tells us that the combat mode was programmed into the robots during the initial design phase. He just activated it. Then he passes us the beta connectors before he dies. P3 collects Petrov's head and goes straight to the Pavlov complex to harvest the data. Since P3 is getting suspicious about what's going on, he simply denies that he has found the rings and hurries to disintegrate Petrov's head. The procedure gets interrupted by Larissa.
Grenade!
But despite her best efforts, the access code has been successfully extracted and the robots are no longer in combat mode. Charles convinces P3 to throw away the rings, because they are too much of a risk in the wrong hands. And we are pretty much done with our main task. However, before returning to Chalamet, Larissa wants to meet us in a secret underwater facility, where we learn the most important things. P3 was an agent with his wife, Katya, until they were injured in a terrorist attack in Bulgaria. Katya couldn't be saved, since her brain was ripped in half. P3 could be saved, but his brain was severely damaged, so he got an implant called Voskhod, which gave P3 artificial memories to forget his wife. Additionally, with this implant, P3's mind can be sent to the imaginary world, Limbo, the one we saw earlier, while his body switches into combat mode. Sechenov tried to restore Katya's left and right hemispheres, but it was too complicated, so he just uploaded an imprint of Katya's ballet and martial arts skills into the twins' matrices, hence their name, left and right. That's why P3 liked their presence, because they reminded him of Katya, even if he couldn't remember.
You mean the ballerina twins? The way they move, they're so graceful and elegant. They kinda remind me of something. Something good.
And that's also why he became emotional when he obtained the rings, since they were meant to be used by him and Katya.
But you know what really grinds my gears?
No, Comrade Major.
The rings. The motherfucking rings that asshole Petrov gave me. And you know why it grinds my gears?
No, Comrade Major.
Me neither.
I can be wrong, but the reason why we only hear left speaking is because in general, only the left hemisphere of a split-brain patient can talk.
Here is your vehicle activation code, Comrade Major.
Charles is not an AI, but the consciousness of a deceased scientist, a former friend and colleague of Sechenov, called Chariton Zaharov. He died mysteriously and was consumed by the red polymer, just as Molotov. Then he was placed in P3's glove by Sechenov. The volunteers we see in cells are the test subjects for Collective. They are basically slaves stuck in limbo, waiting for commands. Because of this, Larissa and Petrov wanted to sabotage the launch. And if it wasn't for us, they might have even succeeded. The implant gets triggered again, Larissa dies, and we wake up next to Granny Zina, who turns out to be P3's stepmom.
How you obtained this information?
From here, there are two separate paths. Either we have enough of this, and simply listen to the vending machine's suggestion, getting rid of Chariton once and for all, or we had to confront Sechenov in his base. As we approach him, we understand the essence of the Atomic Heart project, effective deactivation of the Atomic Heart of America. In short, the plan was to sell these robots to the US, and once they reach critical mass, they are switched to combat mode to take over power plants, in hope the US would just casually surrender. That's why Petrov wanted to warn the outside world. Atomic Heart, huh? More like the Soviet Trojan horse. Confronting Sechenov, he orders the twins to terminate P3, so we have to take them out. It starts pretty rough, but in the middle of the fight, P3 hears Katya's voice as she is begging to be freed. We beat the twins, shoot Sechenov, just to be betrayed by Chariton. He was manipulating P3 through the whole game, made him throw away the rings, switched him into combat mode to kill Larissa and Molotov, because he wants a next wave of evolution by becoming a Jellyman. Wow. Chariton destroys the Alpha Connector, kills and consumes Sechenov, and sets P3 into Limbo, where P3 meets Right. It's kinda symbolic that P3 is now in human form in Limbo, while the fluffy creature appears in the real world, as if reality has been mixed with imagination. This was Atomic Heart, a rare mix between Bioshock, Soma, Chamber of Secrets, Assassin's Creed Unity, and Crispy Critters.
Crispy critters!
And left,